We're about to dissect one of the most powerful and frankly invisible systems of influence in human relationships. This isn't just about hurt feelings, no. This is a masterclass in social dynamics. We're talking about the actual architecture of jealousy, not as some emotional flaw, but as a deliberate, strategic weapon. This is the anatomy of the triggers that people pull to test you, to measure you, and ultimately, to control your emotional reality.
Let's be perfectly clear. This has nothing to do with love or connection. This is about power. The material we're breaking down today frames jealousy not as a weakness, but as a diagnostic tool. See, when someone intentionally makes you jealous, they are taking a measurement. They're literally checking the grip they have on your nervous system, testing your fear of being replaced to see just how much of your own sovereignty you're willing to trade for their approval.
So how do they do it? Well, they introduce a ghost into the room, a third party, a rival, who is held up as everything you're afraid you aren't. And this isn't just a person, it's a weaponized concept. It's what's called the ghost node, this invisible third party that's been engineered specifically to light up your deepest fear of being replaced. You know, they're basically creating a silent auction, and they're just waiting to see how much of your own dignity you're willing to bid just to get that spotlight back on you.
Let's be really precise about what this is, because it's important. This is not some random emotional flare-up or a simple misunderstanding. It is a trap. It's a deliberate system, an architecture, engineered to dismantle your self-worth from the inside out. It's designed specifically to make you question your own value, turning your own natural fear of loss into the very leash they use to pull you around.
So what does this actually feel like in the real world? Well, it begins with something called the reactivity test. It's that sudden, chilling shift from feeling totally secure and confident one minute to being in a state of desperate, scrambling panic the next. And it almost always starts with a sudden, unexplainable coldness from someone you trust, a subtle withdrawal that just leaves you spinning, trying to figure out what you did wrong.
And the triggers, they're almost always disguised as something innocent, something totally deniable. You know, an offhand comment about a colleague's amazing promotion, or some casual praise for how successful an ex-partner has become. It could even be something as simple as admiring a stranger's style, but you feel it instantly. That spike in your heart rate, that tightness in your chest. And what's the immediate reaction? It's a sudden, compulsive need to prove your own worth, right? To explain why you're also successful, or to become unusually helpful just to win back that approval. Make no mistake, this is not an accident. They are mapping your insecurity.
In this state, your higher-level thinking is completely offline. This is what's called induced relational panic. Your executive sovereignty, your ability to act in your own long-term best interest, has been systematically eroded. Your brain isn't focused on your goals or your values anymore, it's been hijacked. And now it is seeking one thing and one thing only: short-term reassurance to make the pain stop. You're not protecting a bond, you're being managed by a reactivity baseline that they've just successfully installed.
And right there, in that moment of panic, when you start to compete with the ghost they've just created, that is the precise moment the trap slams shut around you. This is the leverage point. This is where the entire power dynamic shifts from a partnership of equals to something much, much darker.
Now let's break down the exact architecture of this trap, because this isn't random. It's a predictable, four-stage loop of emotional engineering, and it's designed to move a person from a state of confident security into one of frantic, desperate submission.
Okay, first, they introduce the third node. They don't attack you directly, that's way too obvious, and it gives you a clear target to fight back against. No. Instead, they create what's called a comparison gap. They'll praise someone else for the exact qualities or achievements they know you're sensitive about. This is the deficiency strike. It's designed to make you feel less than, without a single word of direct criticism. Next, you get hit with the ambiguity strike. They get vague, they hide their phone screen when you walk by, they stay out late with no clear explanation. This engineered uncertainty triggers a massive cortisol overload in your brain. Because to your nervous system, ambiguity about your social standing feels like a threat to your very survival, creating this desperate need for closure at any cost. And that leads you right into step 3. Compulsive performance. To close that ambiguity gap and soothe that cortisol spike, you start abandoning your own boundaries. You begin to overperform. You do things you wouldn't normally do, you offer concessions you'd never normally make, all in an attempt to outcompete a rival who might not even know a competition is happening. Finally, this whole cycle creates the insecurity anchor. They are no longer your partner, they have now become the sole judge of your value. The dynamic is no longer about mutual respect, it has shifted entirely to one of conditional acceptance. You now exist in a state of perpetually auditioning for a role that you thought you already had.
And in that final stage, the power shift is absolute. The source material puts it perfectly. You have become the petitioner, constantly begging for approval and validation. And they have become the sovereign, the one who literally manages your entire emotional reality. You now look to them to tell you if you're okay, if you're enough.
So the critical question is, why? Why is this trap so brutally effective, even on really intelligent, successful, high-status people? Well, the answer isn't in your conscious, logical mind. It's buried deep in our evolutionary psychology, in the ancient primal wiring of the human brain.
The core principle at play here is called mate choice copying. It's a primal shortcut, a little heuristic our brains use to figure out what's valuable. Study after study shows that we are socially validated creatures. We automatically assign more value to something or someone if we see that other desirable people also want it. A manipulator exploits this pre-built logic against you. By introducing a rival, they are artificially inflating their own social market value, while at the same time devaluing yours, making you feel like you need to work harder and harder just to keep them.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the internal war that happens. On the surface, our conscious mind scrambles to rationalize what's going on. We tell ourselves, oh, they're just popular, or they're just being friendly. But our primal brain, our ancient status radar, knows exactly what's happening. From a neuroscience perspective, social rejection and this kind of comparison anxiety light up the exact same part of the brain as physical pain, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, or the dACC. So while you're telling yourself it's a coincidence, your brain is screaming a totally different reality. I am being chemically managed. My fear of loss is being weaponized. My social status is under direct threat.
So once you're caught in this loop, how do you escape? How do you actually reclaim control? The good news is, we're not just here to diagnose the problem. We're going to talk about the clear, actionable countermaneuver. So let's shift to the solution. It's time to learn how to dismantle this trap and take back your cognitive sovereignty. This is the key. The very first step is to introduce what's called metacognitive stillness. Instead of reacting instantly on that primal level, you have to create a micropause, a tiny bit of space between their trigger and your response. This is an act of what's called metacognitive labeling. You see their trigger not as a reflection of your worth, but simply as a piece of data about their strategy. Asking yourself this one question stops that cortisol flood and allows your rational mind to get back in the driver's seat. Okay, so once you've created that mental space, you execute a three-step pivot. First, calibrate. You use that 100% secure question to short-circuit the emotional flood, and you analyze the situation from a position of strength, not panic. Second, validate. You do the very last thing they expect you to do. You praise the rival first. When they mention how great their rival is, a simple calm, "Wow, they sound great," completely neutralizes the attack. Why does this work? Because it breaks the power of the deficiency strike. They were expecting you to get insecure, to feel threatened. By showing you feel none of that, you demonstrate that you perceive no deficiency in yourself. And third, refuse. You refuse to compete. When they praise someone else, you just agree with them, and you frame it as a reflection of their own good judgment. You say, "They are fantastic. I'm glad you have good taste." This simple act proves that your status is not some prize for them to award. It's inherent.
And this is the checkmate move. Because when you refuse to get into the ring and fight their ghost, the entire narrative they've built, the one where they are the prize that must be won, it just completely collapses. You are demonstrating with unshakable calmness that you cannot be controlled by a manufactured threat. And this one pivot either returns the dynamic to one of mutual respect, or more often than not, it just reveals that mutual respect was never there in the first place.
So let's wrap this up with the single most important frame in this entire system. Because, look, understanding the mechanics is one thing, but really internalizing this final idea is what creates true, lasting immunity to this kind of manipulation.
This is the ultimate lesson, right here. So much of our energy gets wasted trying to win these hidden competitions, trying to prove we're the winner in some triangular struggle that was designed by someone else. But authentic power is not about winning their game. It's about having the clarity and the self-worth to recognize you don't even need to play it at all. True authority comes from internal validation, not from winning a competition against a ghost.
You have to understand, the person who can make you fight for their approval is the person who can make you lose your sense of self. Just becoming aware of this system collapses its power over you. So the next time you feel that pull, that chemical urge to compete and prove your worth, just remember this: stop biting the hook of the rival. Own your own value.